Okay, we're going to explain the great Tesla pump and dump in 3 easy steps. So Tesla, as we know, has just lost a third of its value, and the reason came last week. First, Bailey Gifford, if I got it right, the Scotland-based investment firm, their largest outside shareholder, decided to offload a lot of its stock. Saying it still thinks Tesla's successful, we're still invested in it, but basically they did decide to sell at the exact peak last week, literally at the exact peak. At the same time, Tesla announced that they were selling 5 billion, they're going to sell new shares of 5 billion worth of stock, because obviously they want to pay off their debt. They're highly indebted, highly leveraged, and they want to use this ridiculous, insane share price to offload, to pay off their debt, and for free, and dilute people's shares. So once that was announced, suddenly things were getting a bit shaky for Tesla, but not so bad. 3% down, not so bad. The death knell of the pump and dump was when the S&P committee announced it was not going to include Tesla in the S&P 500. And that's when it started losing, and in a few days it's lost a third of its value. Now the reason is, firstly, those values was inflated, we now know, by SoftBank. SoftBank was called the Nasdaq whale. They were pumping and dumping, basically buying calls on all the shares. Now if you're an investor, you look at the put-call ratio of all stocks. So you would say, you see, there's a lot of calls meaning I only make money if the price goes up, and puts meaning I only make money if the price goes down. So calls, they were saying, wow, there's a lot of calls here. Must be a good stock. Okay, we'll start buying. And SoftBank is offloading these calls to the dumb investors who that they've just pumped to buy into the stock. That's what they're doing. They're just offloading their fake calls. They know it's worthless, but they know they're looking at these calls and they're offloading to them. And they bought $4 billion of these call options. And as we've spoken before, only 5% of Tesla is actually traded. All the rest is dealt with by passive funds or internal shareholders like Elon Musk. So it's very, very small amounts that are actually traded. And they were buying these calls, pumping up the stock. Then they offloaded their calls. The dumb investors basically got left with the bag of these shares. S&P 500 decide we're not going to have this risky stock in our share index. Now the reason being, obviously, Tesla's aiming to get the S&P to get more passive investors. Remember, once you get in the S&P, all these passive investment funds, which is 60% of the S&P, have to buy your shares regardless of the price. Could have been 10,000, 20,000, doesn't matter. They would have to have bought it. So that's what they were aiming for. Let's just get it as high as possible. We get in the S&P, boom, it doesn't even matter now that it's worthless, because they have to buy our shares. Anyway, we can offload all the stock we want. They have to buy it. Oh, we're not on the S&P? Oh, and we did all these calls. Oh, and our biggest shareholder just sold all their stocks. Bang, all the way down. And the pump and dump scheme, all the big guys left, all the dumb money is left with these $2,000. Well, now they got split, so or whatever, $450 stocks, and that's where we are now. Classic pump and dump happening with all your favorite fangs.